formidable defense once again in 2024. But make no mistake about it, they are going to be tested by some of the league's top quarterbacks. We'll talk about it. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jeff Floyd. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I mentioned in the open, Cleveland Browns defense in 2023, and as many of you know and listening to the show well over the past year, we thought it was going to be a great defense. We thought it had all the makings to be a very, very top-shelf defense, one of the league's best in the NFL in 2023. One of the issues was how quickly it was going to all come together. It certainly came together a lot quicker than any of us could have anticipated, certainly me as well. But this year, you're going to face some of the absolute creme de la creme at the quarterback position. Week 1, Dak Prescott. Jalen Hurts, certainly. Joe Burrow twice, most likely. Lamar Jackson twice. You're going to see Tua Tagovailoa. You are going to see Justin Herdert. We are going to see Patrick Mahomes. Not to mention, you're going to close your last 4 games of 2024. You're going to see Patrick Mahomes. You're going to see Joe Burrow. You're going to see Lamar Jackson. And you're going to see Tua Tagovailoa. Not in that order. But that's how they're going to close the 2024 season. Now you look at, the way this defense was last year, and almost all of it coming back. And in some cases, some of the positional groups may be coming back in a little bit of a better situation because most likely going to come back healthy. You're thinking you're going to get almost an entire season of Juan Thornhill. You're thinking you're almost going to get an entire season of Grant Delpit as well. You figure out, and we'll get to the safeties later, because 3, 4, and 5, it's going to be interesting because you have 2 guys that probably looking right now that they're the 4th and 5th safety on this team who played some pretty meaningful minutes last year for this team, played pretty well, but we're not really sure where their playing time is going to come from here in 2024. The defensive line, I think the pass rush, as good as it was last year, I think maybe collectively it may be underachieved as far as from a number standpoint. I think they can maybe hit a higher number as far as sacks than they did last year. Myles Garrett, certainly notwithstanding Defensive Player of the Year and all the work and effort and ridiculous amount of, just production that Myles Garrett gave you last year. But Zadarius Smith at 5.5 sacks, you figure maybe that's something that can get a little better. You certainly look, 5 sacks from Alex Wright last year. I think that number's probably going to go up. Obadiah Okoronkwo missed a bunch of time. You think the numbers for him are going to go up. Elijah McGuire, certainly a player where the numbers are going to go up. I think the pass rush, as far as the defense is concerned, defensive tackle position concerned, can probably improve here in 2024 as opposed to 2023. Maurice Hurst certainly gave you some nice production. Dalvin Tomlinson, limited as a pass rusher. The Browns really concentrated on having him be an early down run stuffer. And then we're trying to go more, having, Maurice Hurst come in the nickel and dime situations, or maybe playing more defensive ends in nickel and dime positions, preserving, basically the wind in the pipes, so to speak, of the defensive tackles. But Quentin Jefferson brought here, he is not really a guy that you're going to look to be a hand in the dirt, run stuffing, 1st and 10, 3rd and short, 3rd goal type of defensive tackle. He is a pass rushing defensive tackle. It's kind of been his calling card in the NFL to this point. You have to think that is one of the things that the Browns found appealing about the veteran. Shelby Harris, it's always kind of been a mixed bag of both, solid, good against the run, pretty good as a pass rusher. Mike Hall right now is probably a better pass rusher than he is run stuffer. That stuff is going to take time in the NFL, certainly. as Mike grows into, what is going to be the adult version of Mike Hall's body, putting on weight, putting on better strength, going against some of the top interior guys in the entire NFL in the AFC North. So you look at it, and there's going to be ways that this unit can improve, but there is no question about the fact that these guys are certainly going to be tested. The top of the shelf of all quarterback play in the NFL right now, certainly Patrick Mahomes, multiple MVP, multiple Super Bowl champion, multiple Super Bowl MVP. He is the standard of what the quarterback position is right now. He'll be coming in. Obviously, the Chiefs will be coming in December to Cleveland this year. Weather is not a factor that ever deters Patrick Mahomes. Kelsey, and the crew, they just put together serious work each and every year. It's probably a disadvantage to play Kansas City later in the season. We always see them early in the year, and they're kind of finding their way in whatever becomes that version of the Chiefs for each and every season. It's always a little bit different. But by December, that's usually the time the Kansas City Chiefs are all systems a go, and they're usually cooking by that time of the year. Getting to see Justin Herdert, with the Chargers, and Jim Harbaugh, and is Jim going to stick to what Jim Harbaugh does best, which is usually put together a good defense, put together a solid running game, or is he going to let Justin Herbert just go? And, Herbert may not have all the weapons. Ladd McConkey looks good. They're certainly hoping for a bigger breakout season from Quentin Johnson. So something to look at from them as well. Tua with Tyreek and Waddle, and, Odell now in the mix as well. Not maybe the best guy as far as outdoor play, and it'll certainly be a later game in the year when Miami comes to Cleveland. But every year it seems Tua gets a little bit better, gets a little bit more comfortable in his skin. You're going to start off your first 6 games. Week 1, Dak Prescott, we know, can throw the ball all over the field. Very productive passer. Maybe it's the fact that they throw the ball too much, Dallas, that sometimes maybe gets Dak into a one bad throw, kind of spoils the day, if you know what I'm saying. Jalen Hurts, just a special guy with his legs, and he's certainly progressed so much from Alabama to Oklahoma, now to his time in Philly. Certainly was hurt last year, a down year, but with all the talent and weaponry he's got around him, it's a guy you certainly got to worry about. And that's not without even mentioning Joe Burrow, who the Browns certainly should face twice this year. Lamar Jackson, who they should face twice this year, have great history in their time against Joe Burrow. We all know that. But you wonder how long those numbers are going to remain so much in Cleveland's favor before Joe maybe starts stacking a win or two against this franchise. And Lamar is a pain in the butt always for the Cleveland Browns, whether it's legs, whether it's arms, whether it's Mark Andrews in a key situation. Cleveland Browns defense is going to be very good, but they are going to be very tested and battled against the league's best quarterbacks. We're going to talk offensive players that we're going to keep our eyes on when training camp opens down in the Greenbrier in West Virginia. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Nobody go anywhere. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who are actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're not really looking, but you're definitely looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like your professionals on LinkedIn. It's out there. Even if you're totally content with the job you have, LinkedIn can find you your dream job that you never even knew existed. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, you may not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is currently finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We continue on here, your latest Locked On Browns. I am your host, Jeff Floyd. As always, we appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The Everyday Crowd, you guys are a bunch of great people. I suggest you join the Everyday Crowd. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. As soon as the shows go up, they are there for you guys to digest. The show is always available. It's always free, wherever you get your podcasts. We talked about in the open, the Browns, and certainly going to be tested on the defensive side of the ball against a lot of the quarterbacks they're going to be facing here this year, some of the absolute best in the entire NFL. We are shifting to players to be focusing on here in training camp in 2024. So we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball. And, as much as we, get wowed and just the continued improvement it looks like in the rehab process of Nick Chubb, we still have to believe that there's a realization that Nick Chubb probably goes on the PUP list when training camp opens next week. We'll find out most likely on Tuesday as far as Nick and, what maybe the future plan for the next month, maybe the next 2 months is for the Browns. Best running back in my 8 years covering this team. Easiest way to describe it. So that brings you to Jerome Ford. Now, Jerome Ford, it's a very confusing story, the way people talk about Jerome Ford and what exactly went on last year. I personally think Jerome Ford certainly met the expectations when Nick Chubb went down of what you could have hoped for, realizing you lost a guy that was so integral to your team. That being said, did Jerome Ford get every yard he was able to get? No, we know the amount of negative carries he had, but also, it was not just a Jerome Ford thing necessarily. It was also an offensive line thing. When you were down to your fourth and fifth tackles starting the entire year, you knew that there was going to be probably, a step back as far as, achieving what you thought you could achieve from your running game. Not every week was going to be that second half against the Baltimore Ravens where basically they just pointed to the right side and said, we're running that way and go ahead and stop it. And the Baltimore Ravens had no answer for it. But there are a lot of weeks where, the run blocking just was not there the way it needed to be. Certainly at times, Jerome Ford got frustrated and either, forced his way into a hole or backed out of a hole and didn't say, hey, maybe a 2 or 3 yard gain is better than nothing at all, or even a negative. So it was a give and take there. The run game is supposed to work hand in hand with run blocking. That just didn't necessarily get to be the case last year. But Jerome Ford, Devontae Freeman is here looking for carries. Nyheim Hines, it's not like he's going to come in and just be a guy that's going to get 10 to 12 carries a game. Not the ideal usage for a guy like Nyheim Hines, but there are plenty of ways Nyheim Hines can contribute. And the Browns can put him on the field and take Jerome Ford out and just create issues that way. So for Jerome, it's going to be a lot for him. It is, because it's going to be, to be the expectation that Jerome should be the lead back until this team gets number 24 back from his knee injury. So for Jerome, it's going to be a lot on Jerome. I think I feel bad that I think there are people that speak negatively about Jerome. Look, the production was production, and he put up yards, scored touchdowns, was certainly a major asset in the passing game. Just hoping to see maybe more of that and less negative runs from number 34 this upcoming season. Cedric Tillman, and you can maybe say the same for David Bell, and probably put Elijah Moore in this group as well. I mean, wide receiver targets, you got to think they are going to be a ton of them for Amari Cooper. There's going to be a ton of them for Jerry Jeudy. The offseason acquisition certainly extended to a new contract. But then it's going to be a battle as to far as who's going to get on the field, who's actually going to get targets. Cedric Tillman brings the big frame, built like a tight end. Moore, it's going to be just more of, can they get back to what worked with him last year? They tried to get into this, using him like a weapon, like just a jack of all trades. And we also early in the season, that was not certainly working for the Browns offense. It was certainly not working for Elijah Moore. Once they kind of just let him go and let that size, just, the size confusion, because Elijah is a smaller player. Once they just got away from that and said, let's just let the kid do wide receiver things, you certainly saw a lot of improvement from Elijah. You certainly saw him get more into his groove as the year went on. So, for the wide receivers, it's going to be a battle. It is, because, with Amari being here and what Amari has done the last 2 years, his amount of usage and targets, it's pretty much manufactured into the offense. It is pretty much a guarantee. With the acquisition of Jerry Jeudy and the subsequent contract extension, the Browns are going to give Jerry Jeudy a little rope And they certainly have high expectations. And, I think the expectation for the Cleveland Browns is probably that, Jerry Jeudy can give you similar production to Amari Cooper. And it should be, by the amount they gave him in that contract extension, that should be the belief of what they think Jerry Jeudy can do for this team. So it leaves you that logjam there of Tillman, Bell, and if you want to put Thrash's name in there, but certainly Elijah Moore as well, is, filling out that wide receiver room. But, where are your opportunities? Where is, the chance and, the possible path to success for any other wide receiver not named Amari Cooper or not named Jerry Jeudy? Now, the offensive line, and we'll start. It's going to be a collective thing, I think, to start, because it's going to be a big key as well as when all these guys get here and report on Tuesday, the 23rd, is everybody ready to go? Is Jack Conklin ready to go? Is he a pup list candidate? Is Dawand Jones a pup list candidate? Is he ready to go? Is Cedric Wills a pup list candidate? Is he ready to go? All three of these guys, all coming off the knee injuries, certainly was a rough spot for the Cleveland Browns last year, but it was one of the rallying cries and something they were able to circle the wagons and basically get it done without having their top three offensive tackles. You figure Cedric Wills will return to his role as a starting left tackle. If Jack Conklin is healthy and ready to go, Jack Conklin is your best offensive tackle, a former two-time All-Pro. It does make the water a little murky for second-year offensive tackle Dawand Jones, who had such a fantastic rookie season, filling in right off the gate in week one once Jack Conklin went down. There was Dawand Jones, because remember, we had these questions. We kind of had these talks last summer after Dawand had such an impressive preseason. It was like, well, when are we going to see the guy? When are we going to see the kid again? Because, Jack Conklin's going to be the starter. So I think it's big also for Jones, because you've got to think if he's not going to be slated as a day one starter, he will be your swing tackle. And there will be reps at left tackle. And the Browns will certainly be monitoring that to see if maybe they do have their future left tackle on the roster already. So for Dawand Jones, certainly a big camp. Third round pick, Zach Zinter, it's kind of big for him as well. It's not necessarily that you're guaranteed playing time. Of course, you have Wyatt Teller. Of course, you have Joel Bitonio. But can Zach Zinter do enough in the summer to maybe offset or rise above Mike Dunn, who's been a swing guard for this team for a long time? And, is Zinter that ready to go this early? Missed a lot of the draft process, due to a leg injury, ironically enough, against Mike Hall in the Ohio State game. But drafted high. Browns love the pedigree that came from in Michigan. Love the fact that he played in a winning atmosphere. Love the fact that he played on a team that ran the ball so successfully. So can Zach Zinter get himself to the swing guard possibility as early as, the regular season? We're going to switch it up. We went from guys we're looking at on the offensive side of the ball in training camp. We're going to go to guys that we're looking at on the defensive side of the ball in training camp. Latest Locked On Browns continues. Everybody stick around. I love sports. You love sports. We all love sports so much. We never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Friday, MLB is back. A 4-day break for the All-Star game. But get your bets and your apps ready, because baseball is back. Closing out your latest Locked On Browns, I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate everybody who takes the time to make Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. If you are not a part of the Everyday Crowd by now, let's change that immediately. Subscribe to the Locked On YouTube channel. Make sure you are a part of the Everyday Crowd. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Mentioned offensive players looking at a camp. We're going to start a little bit here on the defensive side of the ball. We'll start right off the bat at the defensive tackle position, because you have second-round pick Mike Hall. Obviously, a lot of thought about what Mike Hall could be for this team as a future linchpin on the defensive line, years going down. How quickly can Mike Hall seize reps? How quickly Can Mike Hall break that rotation? Because once he does, you have an issue here. You know Dalvin Tomlinson's going to be on this team. We know Shelby Harris is going to be on this team. We have a pretty damn good idea that Quentin Jefferson's going to be on this team. Normally you keep 5 defensive tackles. That gets you into Mike Hall, who is going to make this team. There's your defensive tackle number 4. Gets you to Maurice Hurst versus Siaka for most likely the 5th spot at defensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns this season. Maurice Hurst last year was splendid. It was a really, really nice story. Everybody knows Maurice Hurst. A lot of time has been missing his days in the NFL. It all started during the draft process when they thought that maybe there was some sort of heart condition that would hold him down. Got through all that, ended up being a 5th-round pick of the Raiders. First NFL sack, ironically enough, rookie year, same rookie year as Baker Mayfield, did come against Baker Mayfield. Well-traveled, but a ton of time missed, injury after injury after injury. And, of course, last season did end early for Maurice Hurst. But he was active. He was very active in the backfield. Everybody remembers a ridiculous interception against the Seattle Seahawks. But for right now, Maurice Hurst could be in a tough spot here trying to make this Browns 53-man roster. And it's going to be due because of Siaka. The difference for all these other guys and Siaka, and which maybe gives Ika the opportunity to stick after a not so good rookie season, is being able to play the zero technique, is being able to play the nose. No other defensive tackle the Browns have really can do that. So that is one of the things where, Ika kind of has maybe an easier path, if you want to use that term, is because he has a calling card, if he can get it done, that a lot of other guys in that defensive tackle room necessarily do not bring to the table. But it's going to be a battle at the defensive tackle position because there are 4 that are basically set in Sharpie, which gives you an odd scenario where Maurice Hurst, who you would have thought would have been a slam dunk to return to this team in the rotation here in 2024, that opportunity may not be so easy for Maurice Hurst here in 2024. Siaka has to do everything he can to get this defense to basically forget about what he did as a rookie year. And it needs to start immediately for Siaka. It needs to start day 1 of training camp. He needs to show that he is ready to go. Everybody understands there are struggles as a rookie. And sometimes, the water's a little bit too deep and it takes a little while to learn how to tread water. But Siaka, the time is now, or it could end up being never. At the defensive end position, I'm going to just highlight 2 names, and it is Zadarius Smith, ironically enough, and it is Elijah McGuire, oddly enough. Because the thing is, for both of these guys, McGuire, the writing was on the wall. It was a tough spot for him last year to break into the rotation because he came in, was drafted as the 5th edge rusher. Had signed Ogbo, certainly had signed Zadarius Smith. Alex Wright certainly elevated himself in year 2. So it's not so much that McGuire, we don't know yet, but McGuire had really good film coming out of Missouri, had really good production coming out of Missouri. But now is the time where he's going to be needed. And he's going to have the opportunity because Zadarius Smith, the 5.5 sacks last year and certainly a ton of pressure. So it's not one where the sacks necessarily tell the whole story. But for Zadarius Smith, I think Browns thought they were maybe going to get a little bit better than that. So we'll see if that is the case. Maybe a little bit less of Zadarius Smith as far as reps might give you a little bit more of Zadarius Smith as far as production. Alex Wright is, after what he did last year, it's going to be really, really hard to not see a pretty good uptick in Alex Wright's snap counts. He is a disciplined player. He does his assignment. He sets the edge. He can kick in outside. He's improved as a pass rusher. 5 sacks last year. 3 sacks, 3 games in a row with a sack last year towards the end of the season. When Miles was a little dinged up, you saw kind of Alex Wright really step up and kind of take that next step. And Ogbo, I think you're going to get better production from Ogbo Okoronkwo here as he is able to hopefully play a whole season here this season with the Browns. Browns' edge group is talented. It is deep. And I think the Browns, one of the biggest things that they're hoping for is they're going to get more production from that unit this year than they did last year. Ronnie Hickman and D'Anthony Bell both had moments last year. Bell with certainly the knockdown Hail Mary against the Chicago Bears. Ronnie Hickman with the pick 6 against the New York Jets. But with Juan Thornhill coming back healthy and most likely going to play 15, 16, 17 games. Grant Delpit coming back with that contract extension, looking to play 15, 16, 17 games. Rodney McLeod came back here basically to, finish up the unfinished business of him leaving the season early last year for the Browns. It puts a tough spot for Hickman and Bell. These guys played well last year, and normally in a situation like this, you think these guys would find a way to get more elevated reps in the following season. But with all those guys in front of them, certainly, with contracts, free agent pickups between McLeod and certainly Thornhill and the, extension to Grant Delpit, who the Browns feel is one of the top players on their defense, it's going to be tough. So a battle in camp certainly is going to be for Hickman and Bell to get out there and string together continuous reps so they kind of don't get their names forgotten about when it comes to the Cleveland Browns safety room. We talked about the great quarterbacks the Browns are going to face this year. We talked about players to watch on the offensive side of the ball, training camp. We talked about defensive side of the ball, players to watch in training camp. I appreciate you all for sticking along, coming in, making Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. As always, I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. 8 seasons now with you all. The everyday crowd, just jump on in. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Content will be here for you all to digest when you can get here. And the show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcast. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.